Thank you for joining us today, Season 2, Episode 5. Today got a very special guest, good friend of mine, former Navy SEAL, sniper, BUDS instructor, entrepreneur, designer, president, founder of Industry Threadworks, husband, patriot, my buddy Ryan Williams. Thanks for showing up, baby.
Thanks, man. Sounds pretty cool when you put it all together like that.
I know. I'm like, holy shit, I'm not going to have to pay you to come in here.
No, thanks for having me, man. I was listening to Danielle's episode on the way up. I'm excited to jump into this conversation. It'd be cool.
She's crazy, right? Like,
yes.
She's telling the story about wrestling that dude or the jiu-jitsu thing, and it was a guy, not a chick, and the way she explains it, and she just likes twisting the knife the whole time.
She's wild, dude. Yeah, she's wild in a good way.
In a good way. Yeah. She's a character, a lot of accomplishments there. And hey, hats off to you before we even start. Like, your podcast, the new one, the name of it is?
Liberty Risk.
Yeah. And give me the background on that. Like,
what the funny thing is, like, a lot of people don't know this, but Liberty Risk is a term in the Navy for somebody who gets in trouble a lot. So, turns out it's very fitting. And I've actually had the trademark on the name for like over a decade, because it just always kind of stuck with me.
Yep.
And it wasn't until I had some time in my schedule and some bandwidth to pursue other things, and I hit up Kevin, our buddy Kevin.
Yep.
Because he's the perfect Liberty Risk. I mean, he retired at 20 years as a chief with like red stripes, and red. If you get gold stripes if you have good conduct.
Yep.
So if you have red stripes at 20 years, it says a lot. And he's like professional comedian level funny.
He totally is.
So we thought about not to get too off topic, but when I thought about this idea, I was like, man, Kevin's the perfect guy to have on for this.
He totally is.
It's been great, and we have another buddy of mine is former Army sniper guy.
Yep.
Very creative. So he brings a different element to it too. We just honestly sit around, have drinks, and tell stories, and have guests on and laugh. And it's the closest thing we get to like what it used to be like in the platoon, huh? Just talking trash. And can we curse on here?
Yes, absolutely.
Shit.
Yep. It's funny because Kevin was on this, I don't know, 2 years ago, and I got to have him back, right? Because he's funny as shit. Mm-hmm. 2, he's got a crazy background of all the stuff. Like, he's a bodyguard for Rogan. He's doing, shows. He's like, a few years back, he's like, hey, bro, like, we're going to a 13-hour premiere in Dallas. And I'm like, okay, well, when is it? And he's like, now. Right? But,
right now.
Yeah, I got a million good stories about him. But your show's awesome. I'd encourage anybody, if you like anything that we're doing, their show's even better. But we're souping ours up today because we got you here.
Oh, well, thanks, brother. Yeah, you won't learn a whole lot from our show, but it's definitely entertaining.
Entertainment is key. So let's start at the beginning. Like, what was your story, as a young dude? Like, where did you grow up? A little bit about your family.
Yeah, man, sometimes I tell a story I forget because it sounds so normal, and then I tell it and I'm like, well, I guess that's really not normal. But I went to 5 different high schools in 3 different states. Didn't graduate any of them. Dropped out of high school halfway through my senior year. We grew up really poor, single family. My mom was raising me and my stepbrother and stepsister on welfare till I was like 15, and then she basically like, fuck this, I'm tired of being poor, and made her own money, and then we had money growing up after that. But through that transition, I never went to a single school longer than 2 years my entire life.
So tough to make friends for sure.
Yeah, I didn't make a lot of friends. It didn't help that I was a huge dork. Like, I was not, like, you see me today, like 47, I was not, like, I'm relatively cool now. I was so not cool, bro. I'm gonna show you, did I show you that picture of me when I was like 15?
No.
Oh, dude, it's, I'll show it to you now because it's,
dude, I need to see it. We may have to cut to this, Clayton, when we do some editing.
It'll set the tone for the ridiculousness of how.
I like this.
If I can get
these are the things that always come up when we do these shows. Like, you know somebody for, I don't know, 6-8 years. And, dude, I think the last time we were actually on a trip together, we ran into you guys on a flight on the way down to Cabo.
Right. Yeah. We're coming back from hanging out with Mikey and Sam.
That's it. And the guy was this a guy raced cars with Tony Gaples, and I remember him throwing shit around. We were at a club, and you guys are like, dude, check your guy. We're in a fucking foreign land. Like, you can't be throwing shit around in the club.
Oh, Mikey?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like Mikey.
That's
of course, when I want this thing, I can't freaking find it. But the picture that I have when I get it is it's of me and Disney because we were both like big dorks as kids.
You knew each other?
No.
I was gonna say
she's 14 years younger than me, so she definitely didn't
good
know me as a
work,
kid.
brother.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. So that's me. That's
Dude,
her, right? Bowl cut.
We're gonna have to be our first time we cut to a picture, Clayton. This is gonna be it. Look at the bicep on that guy. I love it.
Got the what's it called? The bike shorts underneath the regular shorts.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was not cool growing up, man. Like at all. I had to work really hard, and my wife still does not think I'm cool. But anyway, it's been a process. And so growing up, man, it was hard to make friends, and it's sometimes what you want as a kid is the things that you hate end up being the things you're most grateful for, right?
Yep.
So because I never went to the same school, longer than 2 years, especially like junior high and high school, I hated it at the time because I didn't make friends. It was hard. Nobody wants to go through that as a kid, right?
Yeah, it's
But
tough.
looking back as an adult, I realized what it gave me, and it gave me the opportunity to reinvent myself every year because this, in the 90s, so there's no social media. And so every year I would be, I'd try to be funny and I'd tell a joke and it would land flat or just like completely embarrass myself. I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then I go to a new school, a new group of people. So I'd constantly be able to learn from my mistakes, correct, and try to iterate and become who I wanted to be through that process. And I ended up being able to carry those skills throughout my life. And now it's been one of my biggest assets or blessings that I was able to learn those skills as a young age. And now I've been able to reinvent myself again and again. But the thing is too, like aesthetically reinvent yourself while maintaining like the core characteristics of who you are.
Sure.
Because it's a delicate balance too. And if I see some people, like, if you're not true to yourself from the beginning and you end up changing, it just causes this weird out of balance thing where you're not confident in yourself, and then everybody else sees it too. Anyway, there's a lot that goes into it, but it was something that I hated as a kid. But now looking back, I'm like, it ended up being pretty useful.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, and you're showing me that picture. Dude, if I show you the picture of me at that age, you look like fucking, the coolest guy ever. Like my pants were pulled up to like my neck.
Oh,
like
nice.
I could get my wallet like this out of the back. And, every year I show up to school, I'm like, oh, this is going to be the year that I'm a cool dude, right? Or that I'm going to fit in. And, I think by the time maybe I was a junior or senior, I like grew a lot. And, then I was reasonably good at football, baseball, whatever else. And I kind of started growing into it a little bit. But, when you're switching schools that many times, like that, it's tough. Like you're alone because how can you have a bestie when you're switching schools? Like, did you play sports?
No, I was on the junior varsity badminton team.
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
Well, there's a bunch of Asian kids in Northern California, so it's really hard to get varsity. Like, it'd be really good to get varsity badminton. And then I got kicked out what's it called when you get suspended one time. And so part of my punishment was to go do PE. So the PE teacher taught me volleyball. So I had like private volleyball lessons.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that served me well coming to Southern California. But that was it. I hated team sports, man, which is weird being a SEAL later because it's all about the team. Yep. But man, the pressure of team sports I did not like as a kid, dude. There were several times where it was in like baseball is like elementary school or junior high or something, and it's a team sport, but it's very individual performance.
Yeah,
like
true.
If you strike out, man,
it's you.
Yeah, it's all you.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember I lost our whole game one time because I was the last person to like strike out at the last inning, the last thing. I was like, oh man, team sports suck, dude.
You're going to carry that for till the next game when you can vindicate yourself. Question on this: so you're growing up in this situation, your mom finally punches out of it, and you're rolling through the high school thing. Like now you look back and you're like, oh, that was good for me. There's a lot of people, dude, when they get to be 45, 55, 60 years old, they don't look back and think that way. They look at it as, I got screwed. I'm a victim. So
of course,
what do you attribute you not having that mentality?
Well, I mean, it's just a choice, right? So like I could have looked at it that way for sure. In fact, I was with a friend of mine about a year ago. He was staying at my house and we're having cigars, chatting, and this is, pretty good friend I've known for a long time, and he's a successful entrepreneur, and he was describing his issues with his dad, and he was describing his childhood and all the things were wrong with it. And I'm like, this is exactly my childhood. Like, what do you, like, everything that he's saying is like, grew up single parent, was poor, moved around a lot, didn't have friends. I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, whatever. So I think it's a choice to look at it. However, there's a limit to that, right? So like, we were poor, but we were never like going hungry. So there's levels to it. And there is a certain point where, okay, you learn the lesson, and now you've extracted everything positive out of it you can, and then everything else is like, man, okay, you really do have, everything else sucks after that. But I think that's a very limited part of the spectrum. I think for most part, people are always looking for an excuse why they haven't achieved what they want to achieve, or why they didn't achieve their goals or their dreams or whatever. Like we were talking about earlier, like if people are afraid, I think, to give their full effort and the full measure sometimes, because if they give their full measure and they don't achieve it, that means they failed. Whereas if they have an excuse or they hold something back, they can always tell themselves that little lie, like, oh, I could have made it. If I just wanted to, if I really wanted to, I could do it. And life doesn't work like that, man. Like, you have decisions every day, and those decisions added up over time in your life end up in results. And to be honest, some of it is dumb luck. There is a luck component, and sometimes you get the short stick, and sometimes you get, the long one, and you just got to ride it out. But there's a vast majority, probably 80 or 90% of it is just how you look at it. And you have the choice as a human to look at these things that go wrong in your life as obstacles, and they are obstacles, but you look at them as like challenges too. And what do you do with a challenge? Like, if you want the outcome, then you rise to the challenge and you learn from it and you overcome it, and you move on to the next thing. But it's also, I think a lot of the parallels with entrepreneurship is, I don't know any successful entrepreneur that has had an easy life. Because
that's true.
Like we were talking about, man, like, dude, there's a lot of burden. There's a lot of responsibility. It's a fight every day. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And it takes a lot of durability, mental durability, to choose to put yourself through that every day. And there's a lot of parallels with BUD/S and SEAL training with that, because like in the SEAL training, for instance, because I was an instructor for a long time, so we saw like thousands of students go through. And you can never tell what somebody has inside. Like we just stopped betting as instructors on who's going to make it, because we're always wrong. Like the studs. Oftentimes we found it was the opposite of the way you would think, where you would see somebody who's a complete stud and they're like setting swim records, and they're just a completely just naturally talented athlete. And they're doing amazing. But that person has usually not been challenged very hard their whole life, because they're just naturally gifted, so they can achieve what most people can't just by pure talent without having to really dig that hard and really challenge, like truly be challenged. The thing with the SEAL teams and BUD/S in particular is that it will take everybody to their limit. Nobody breezes through training. So what happens is these people are not used to being challenged. They're not used to overcoming their own limits. Once they reach that, their personal, they've never given that much anymore, or they haven't given that much before, they don't know what to do. And oftentimes they feel like failure for the first time, and they don't know how to handle it, and they leave. But a lot of people who have built up a resilience to it and a durability to it, you're more resistant to it. You're like, okay, well, I failed the O course. Oh, well, but somebody who's never failed the O course, oh man, it's a big deal. Somebody fails the O course 20% of the time, you're like, it's just Tuesday. It's
kind of like happiness is a function of expectation, right? And if your expectation is, hey, I'm not going to fail, but if I do, what's my reaction to that, right? Like all these decisions. And I think that's a pretty good point. Like, and I'd be curious to see the math, and I've watched shows and they're like, dude, we don't know who's going to make it through.
You never know.
SEAL training, right? Or BUD/S. And so write me a little note on how did you get from high school, and you're the dude in that picture, to like even deciding that you're going to go in the Navy. So I want to know that part, but then what gets you to take the plunge and do the team gig?
Yeah. So that picture, I was about 15, I think, and I was a junior year in high school. I was up in Washington visiting my dad, and then I threw a party, and he kicked me out. I was trying to be cool, so I threw a party, and I cleaned out. I thought I cleaned up the house pretty good, because I think he was skiing in Chamonix or something. And he comes back, and he finds a beer that I had forgot somebody put in the freezer. And so he finds, like, you had a party and all this, and he was mad about it. So he ended up kicking me out, like, the day after I graduated high school.
Oh, man.
I went and moved back to Santa Fe, New Mexico with my mom, because she moved there after my sophomore year in high school or whatever.
Yep.
And so I went back there and went to a prep school for a little while, and then transferred to the public high school, and none of my credits were going to transfer over. So they told me that this is halfway through my senior year. I did first quarter of the prep school, second quarter of the public high school, and they're like, hey, none of your credits transfer over, so you're going to have to come back and redo the first half of your senior year over again.
Oh,
and
man.
I'm like, well, why? I'm not going to do that.
Right.
They're like, well, then you can't graduate. I'm like, well, why would I stick around and do the second half of my year if I'm not going to graduate anyway?
Right.
So I'm just going to leave right now. So I just did. It's funny because the principal was they're like, you need to go talk to the principal. So I'm like, all right. So I went and talked to the principal. And my problem is I've always been very pragmatic and not very, like, I had to learn social cues and humor and all that. I had to, like, practice it a lot. So I've always been these little decisions. You're like, well, X plus Y is this. So if I'm not going to graduate, I'm just leaving, like, right now.
Yeah.
Like this second. And so I went and talked to the principal, and he's like, well, if you drop out of high school, you're never going to be able to get in the military. I don't care. I'll never join the military. I don't give a shit. And so I got my GED like a month later, and I was 17 at the time, and went out to Mammoth for a year as a snowboard bum, just worked, chair 13 and a busser at the restaurant.
That's awesome.
It was pretty fun. When you're 17, it was a cool thing to do. And then I went to Havasu the next year and tried to get on the pro circuit for freestyle jet skiing.
Yep.
With stand up, but I didn't even have a trailer. I had a jet ski, but like no trailer. So this thing ended up.
You got to carry the thing on your shoulder.
We literally carried it up the stairs in my apartment. That's where it
man.
sat for the whole summer. So that didn't work out, but that put me about 18 or 19. Put me about 19, and I was like, dude, what am I doing? So I went back to Santa Fe, my mom's house. I'm like, dude, what am I going to do with my life? Like, who am I? Where do I fit? And all this. So I started researching what to do, and it seemed to me that the best thing to do was to find something difficult. So I was like, okay, it's 1996, I think, 95, 96. Like, what's the hardest thing you can do? And Google said, well, climb Mount Everest or be a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I don't have 50 grand to climb Everest, so I'll see this Navy SEAL thing. And so I researched it. I read all the books, as much info as you can get in the mid-90s. And the more I learned about it, the more I was like, dude, these guys are like something pretty cool. I respected them a lot. And I was like, dude, this sounds like really badass. It sounds like real, like, a man's man. And growing up with a single mom, I spent 1 year with my dad, but that was really it. So I didn't have like a father figure in my life, which comes into play later. But so I was like, okay, well, I want to respect myself as much as I respect these guys.
Sure.
So this seems like a good play. And I went into it. I trained as much as I could, learned as much as I could. Was never a great athlete, but just tried to be the best I could. And I went into the program, and the thing you hear all the time, especially as an instructor, is like, I'll die before I quit. And I used to tell the kids all the time, it's like, man, there's a lot more helmets under the belt than there are dead bodies, bro. Like, I want to be realistic here. So me always being pragmatic, I was like, look, I'm going into the program, and I'm willing to give it this much, and I'm just hoping that what the program asks of me is slightly less than what I'm willing to give to the program.
Yep.
And that's thankfully how it ended up working, a little bit of luck and everything. But that was my reasoning for it. And this is pre 9/11 too, so it wasn't any patriotic sense or military duty or anything like that. It was selfish. Like, I just want to see where I fit in the world,
sure,
as a man and myself, and just test myself.
Did you have to sign up for a different, like, billet or surface warfare, blah, 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 to get to the teams, or could you just go in and
At the time, the teams weren't their own rating. So SO is the rating as a SEAL, but that didn't come until like a decade later. So I signed up under what was called the Dive Farer program at the time.
Okay.
So That means you got a guaranteed shot as long as you pass the screening test, which I failed the first time because pull-ups has never been my thing. And so that's how I got there. And then I went to A school in Pensacola, Florida for aviation ordnancemen. And then went right to BUD/S, and then, thankfully made it through the first time. I had a point where we started that, but I forgot where I was going.
I got distracted with it.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. But that's why I went. I just wanted it was a personal challenge. But the more I got into it, the more it fit me. I was like, this is exactly where I want to be. This is perfect. But to get back on like where the lack of father figure coming into my life.
Yeah.
So it never bothered me as a kid. I was like, I didn't miss.
You didn't know
growing up.
Right?
I didn't know. I was like, fine. My mom was an awesome mom, so I didn't feel like I was lacking anything. But I didn't realize how different like the man's humor is. And me growing up, I was always the outcast or the weird kid. So I had to analyze humor. So I was friends with some really funny people, and I wasn't funny. So I was trying to analyze it. Like, is it the content of what they're saying it? Is it the context of how they're saying it? Is it the timing? Is it the phrasing? Is it the volume? Like what is funny, in a mathematical equation? Right. And I tried a bunch of different variables and failed so bad. It was so cringy. I was so cringy as a kid. So I had to learn humor, and I was still learning it when I got to BUD/S and the team. So, and I'm going to call it alpha, but it's not really like an alpha personality. It's just kind of like, it's a very aggressive mentality, but rightfully so. That's how it should be. But a lot of that comes with men's humor, which is a lot of sarcasm, and I did not get sarcasm. I did not understand sarcasm or irony or any of that stuff.
So you get your ass kicked probably pretty good at the time.
Oh my God, yeah. I was laughing at inappropriate stuff and not laughing at things that were funny. I had to learn very quickly, like, this is a totally different type of humor. Took me years to get it. I'm, slightly not super funny now, but I'm way more entertaining than I used to be, especially with a couple of drinks. I'm way funnier with drinks. But yeah, man, that lack of a father figure in my life, it never affected me the way that I think it affects, maybe some other people. But it was definitely noticed when it came time to like understand culture and humor and sarcasm. Just the way the guys interact is very different than the way that like normal people interact, especially like that type of community.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very aggressive.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, right? Because I mean, whether you're doing that, football locker room or other sports.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably similar, yeah.
And it's hard to recreate that. And if you're in it, it's like it's the way it's always been, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't a very good athlete when I was in elementary school. In fact, I can remember the principal telling me, well, maybe when you're in college. Like, what a way to insult the kid, right? And in the 70s, you could say anything you want to the kid. And then it took me a while to kind of get there. But because you're immersed in it, you get it. You get the humor. Even if you're the brunt of the joke, like, you kind of figure it out. Mm-hmm. But I can't imagine, especially in that environment, because, these aren't kids. I mean, they are and they're not, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're in that environment. There's nowhere to hide. Like, everybody's giving shit constantly. And you have all these high achievers. So you end up being a BUD/S instructor, but talk me through, like, how did you get through BUD/S? Like, where you said you got through the first time, which a lot of people wash out. But even the guys that get through, they got to go back and they get rolled. And
yeah, a lot of people get rolled. For a variety of reasons, but we started class 219 with, I think, around 155 guys, and we graduated with, I think, around 54 guys, which is a fairly large BUD/S class at the time, but only 14 of those were originals.
So the other guys were rolled.
Yeah, were rolled in. Some of it's performance based, where they didn't pass a run or a swim, and then they got rolled, and then most of those guys would then get better and pass it. Sometimes it's a injury thing where they got ITB band injury or an ankle injury or something, and it wouldn't heal in time, so they would either rolled back or rolled out, or guys would get kicked out of the program completely and then come back in years later. And a lot of it, about 10%, is just dumb luck, man. Like, you just had your foot in the wrong place and you rolled your ankle, or you break your leg on rock portage, or the boat hits your neck wrong and tweaks it, and you're like out, like medically retired at 22.
Yeah, that's
military.
tough. Yep.
Yeah, so there is a certain amount of luck to it, but it's also kind of life. You know, I mean, you get hit crossing the street, and you just kind of roll the dice.
Yeah,
is what it is.
There's some variables in that whole thing, right?
Yeah, but that's a piece of it too. Is that you have to be willing to roll the dice a little bit in a program like that. Like those are the guys that we want in the program. The guys that are willing to roll the dice and bet on themselves, and you know, move forward with it. It's a lot of parallels with entrepreneurship, actually.
Sure. Yeah, you didn't know that at the time though, as you're going through it, right? So you're grinding it out, and then you get through between 9/11 and when you get through that, you know, few years, 3-4 years probably in there. What's it like being in the teams? Like, there's not a shit ton of stuff going on, right?
No, it was great, man. It was fun. No, we had a great time, man. We were going to Guam pre 9/11. We were just going to Guam and playing volleyball and hanging out with strippers and like getting a tan. Like, it was great, dude. Like, we had like 20 years of peacetime. Like, dude, being a Navy SEAL in peacetime is awesome. But when war hits, you don't want to be a Navy SEAL in peacetime. And I never got to go to Iraq or Afghanistan. I did 1 platoon before 9/11 and then 2 after. I just missed it both times. Like, one time we're like, oh, we got to go to PACOM, and then you'll go to CENTCOM, and then we got in a big drug scandal in Thailand and got kicked out. And
nice.
Yeah, like, well, there goes our CENTCOM thing. And the other time we couldn't hit Afghanistan, but it was before Iraq was going off, so we didn't know if we were going to attack Iraq or Yemen. So we got positioned in Djibouti to start up that base there, and we took it over to the French Foreign Legion. And the gamble was, well, we could get you guys ready for Iraq and position you there if that goes off, or if Yemen goes off, you guys will be the first ones there. So our head shed gambled on that, which of course didn't happen. So we just ended up spending 6 months in Djibouti, Africa, which I don't recommend. God, I freaking hate
Not the greatest place. We were talking about not like being hot. It had to be hot as balls.
I hate being hot, man. If Buds is about being hot instead of cold, I would have been the first one of the bell, dude. I do not do heat. Cold I'm okay with, but I can't stand being hot, man. Yeah, and Djibouti is like 120 in the shade, miserable. It's worse than Florida. And then we were in Qatar for a while too. And that's like, I mean, our Sunto watches go up to 140 and then they blank out, and they were blanked out.
Oh man.
Yeah. I don't know what the real temperature was, but it's dry. Yep. But that's like standing in front of it's a blow dryer and an oven mixed together. It's terrible.
There's no way to escape it at all.
Yeah. Right? It's not as bad as Djibouti though. Djibouti is just like sticky, gross, wet, damp. So
what were you doing when you're in Djibouti? Like, I mean,
lifting a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, I got up to like 230. I went from I was like 235 at the time. Well, I'm 235 now, but I was new to 235 at the time.
It was your first 235.
Yeah, exactly. Doing some training. Nothing really. A lot of video games and just trying to stay sharp without, just maintenance of the guys, But yeah, honestly, like literally nothing. It was very disappointing.
So with the guys that now, when you look back, you get the Kevin Kent that got deployed, a trillion times. Like, how does that interaction work? Like, is it weird? I mean,
no, I'm just jealous, dude. I'm like, bro, but you can only chase the dragon so much.
Yeah.
So that I did 3 platoons, and then we got our sister platoon got in a lot of trouble in Thailand. It actually went all the way up to like SecDef level. It was like some
it was
pretty
bad.
Heavy stuff. Yeah. And my roommate killed himself. A couple people got their bullet pulled. It was pretty bad.
Wow.
And then I was just pissed at the whole thing because I didn't get in trouble for anything. Like, pulled the piss test clean. It was fine.
Yep.
But I still got fucked.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, fuck you guys. And so I got sent over to instructor duty in 3rd phase, which was awesome break. Love being an instructor. Taught me a lot about leadership, a lot about responsibility, because I was, I think, 26 when I went over there. That's the thing about buds too, man. Like, most of these guys are pretty young.
Yeah.
So even the instructors are like mid to late 20s, and you've got a lot of responsibility for, I mean, it's literally life and death.
Yeah. Pushing guys to the edge.
Or these guys would literally jump off a cliff if you tell them to.
Yeah.
So it's a surprising amount of responsibility, and you don't feel like you're a young kid when you're 26, especially when you have that experience coming in. But now looking back at 47, 21 years later, man, 26-year-olds it's fucking young, dude.
Yeah.
But that was a great experience. I learned a lot. I really enjoyed being an instructor. But talking about like chasing the dragon, that put me at like 9.5 years. And I remember that's where I met Mikey Sowers.
Okay.
We were buzz instructors together. And so he was going back to, he was going to do deployment Team 5 because he got to third phase a year before me. So I was still there, and he had left the buds as an instructor, and he was at Team 5 and they were getting ready to deploy. And I put a chit up through my command. I was like, hey guys, like I'm considering getting out, or I might re-enlist, but I've never been to combat. Like I've been 3 deployments, haven't done shit. Like let me go augment Team 5 with my buddy Mikey who just left.
Sure.
And then go do like actual SEAL stuff. And then, maybe I'll, re-enlist after that. They're like, nope, we're undermanned. You're too valuable here. You can't go. I'm like, I'm fucking getting out. Fuck this shit. Because if I had, and a lot of people don't know, but you can't just choose when you get out. You have to do a chunk of enlistment. So I would have had to re-enlist for either 4 or 6 years.
Wow. It's a big ass commitment.
Right. So I'm like, dude, do I commit another 4 years to this and then chase the dragon? There's no guarantee. I could go sit in Guam for another deployment, another 2 years.
Yep.
And I'm like, dude, I was already so pissed and disgruntled, and I was like, I'm fucking ready to get out. So then Mikey and I started Forged, and that was a fun experiment. Learned a lot. Sold my half of that. 5 years later, built another clothing brand, a kettlebell company, and then some other minor stuff, and then sold all that. And now I think Industry Threadworks is 11 years old now, and we produce apparel for other brands and stuff. But it's been fun. We work with a lot of different companies, and we see behind the scenes on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I learned more about entrepreneurship and the apparel industry in 4 years of that company than I did in 6 years of running my own business.
Wow.
Because when you're running your own business, because everything's siloed, and especially apparel brands, they all think that like everybody's their competition. So there's not a whole lot of collaboration or communication with them. And so everybody thinks they're having their own problems. But the reality is, like, because we deal with so many different apparel brands, they all have the same problems. They just don't know they're all dealing with the same problems. Yep. So we get to see behind the scenes in all of them. So we come in like, hey man, like this is a very common problem that you're having. Have you tried applying this solution to it? And most solutions, most business solutions are very similar across different business models. You just got to tweak it a little bit, and then usually that solution will fit, whether it's finance or product development or marketing or distribution, whatever it is. And so we end up growing that, and it's frustrating at times, but it's also really fun. We get to work with a ton of cool people, and at this point, we probably know probably everybody in almost everybody apparel brand that you've ever heard of in the military space. We either work with or know at this point. So it's been pretty cool. When
you started Forged with your partner, then you guys owned the brand. You were coming up with all the designs. Mm-hmm. Was that, you didn't know shit about apparel and you just got started? Like, how did you learn it? And what was that process like? Like, you get out of the teams and you got to have, I don't want to say insecurity, like you got a high level of confidence, but this is a whole new thing.
Yeah, we didn't know shit. We just figured it out. We couldn't afford a designer, so I became the designer. But it's funny that an apparel line was actually the very last idea that Mike and I had. We had like a dozen ideas, everything from, a Navy SEAL party planner to, obviously the tactical thing, which every team does. Like, I want to have a tactical ranch with like DPVs and helicopters and I've used this since when I analyze business ideas, because how it is. Everything's a shiny object. You're like, I could do something with this. It's a great idea. Yeah. But we ran it through these 5 things. So basically, how big can this thing possibly get? This idea. How long is it going to take us to get there in this, to where we can possibly get as big as we want? How long is that going to take? How much money is it going to take us to get there? Yep. How much personal bandwidth is it going to take? Is this something that you can just put money into? Or is this going to be something you're going to have to handhold the whole way? Yep. And then what's exit strategy for it? Like, is this something that you
pretty
can
fucking
build
smart,
and sell?
You didn't get this from a master's degree at Harvard? Like, you guys just figured this on your own?
I didn't find this out until later. That's what we've done. We just had a bunch of drunk conversations. It wasn't until like a decade later, like, oh, that's actually what we did, But I found that like most business is pretty common sense. Like looking back, the answer is always like, oh yeah, That's logical. That makes sense. Aside from two things, the two things that always blow my mind in business because they don't make any fucking sense is people, because they're motivated by, and people are not my strong suit. And leadership has always been, I've never been good at leadership. I'm just less shitty than I used to be, thank God. And finance, because the real way that business is run and finance operation is not taught. Because a lot of people, there's a lot of gray area. So the only way nobody talks about it on air. I'm not going to talk about the gray areas that we do, but I learned about it from in-person conversations with people that know and have done it. And you're like, oh, that's how you do this. This is how you move things around. This is how you make the business function and work. And those two things, even looking back, they still don't make sense. I don't know why people are motivated by certain things. I don't know why people want certain things that are way different than what I want.
Sure.
But it's my job as the founder, the owner, the leader of the company to try to get them whatever they want, within the umbrella of our company. And that's I think what a big role in the leadership of a company is how do I number one, understand what my employees' version of success looks like, and then how do I find a way to achieve that success for them within my company. So that was an interesting perspective shift for me and challenge. And the finance thing, I'm still learning. There's so many financial tools available that are amazing.
Yep.
Just incredible. So you really need somebody. I think it's really valuable if you're a new entrepreneur. You can figure most things out, to be honest, but the people portion, I think, is really valuable for people to learn from other people. And the finance portion, if you get somebody who really understands the financial game, there's so many options that you will never find out unless you talk to somebody that knows.
Yeah, it's so true, right? And depending, I think, too, on how you're brought up, like in my family, my dad was a medical examiner. My mom had a small business, but they weren't talking about these complex, like business finance, real estate finance, etc. Even from a personal finance side, it was like, oh yeah, we got a mutual fund here, got an IRA there, and that was it. And it's not a dig on them. It's just the level of financial sophistication.
Yeah.
What I was exposed to, and then you start a business, you're plugging your own money into it, you don't know what's there, and all of a sudden you start figuring it out, and you're like, bro, I want my kids to know about that.
Yeah.
When they're 18, so that they're way ahead. And I think the finance part of it is a science, but it's like a secret science that not everybody knows about.
Yeah.
And the people side of it's the art, right? Like,
it is an art. Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
It's very unique in that. And then, like you and I think the same on a lot of different things. If you and I haven't seen each other for 6 months and we see a personal dynamic, we're going to think the same way. Why that is, I can't figure out. If you're looking at a finance component, right, that's a science. And the dude that's got the highest level of understanding of it is usually going to crack the code. It's an interesting part of it. So now industry, I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Industry ThreadWorks, you're doing your own products, but you're doing other people's stuff too. Now, it's not really a consultancy, but that's part of it, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've been B2B for I think the company's almost 12 years old now. And so it started because when I was with Forged, we would always get our friends that had businesses, and they would have trouble getting apparel. Because if anybody's ever got apparel done, it gets jacked up about 50% of the time. Because you go to your print shop, you don't know how to articulate what you want. You don't know what the Pantone color is. You don't know what the tech back is. You don't know what blank style number you want, or even the right color sometimes. So it's very hard for the print shop to decipher what you want and then get you right thing that you'll be happy with. So what ends up happening is that there's a lack of communication. And so most businesses have a really big problem with getting apparel done that's on time and it's the right stuff they want. So because I was running Forge and I was doing the production at the time and the designing, we had other friends who had businesses and like, hey man, we're having a real problem with our apparel. Like, can you run it for us? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I've been doing this for, is that almost 18 years now, but it wasn't until I sold all my other businesses that it gave me I sold the kettlebell company. It wasn't enough to retire on my any means, but it was enough to give me a little break and breathing room where I could be like, okay, take a step back and figure out what's next for me, what I want to do. And I had a friend of mine that had an apparel brand, and he was a very creative guy, super good at branding and building the vision, but not very well versed on the technical side of things. So I was showing him like, hey man, I can do, like, this is how I did my brand. If you do this, like, this is how it works, and you can maximize your efficiency and save a bunch of money and just make the whole thing function better and be profitable. And he's like, bro, I don't know how to do that. So I was like, well, shit, man, I'll just do it for you, and then upcharge it a small percentage, and it'll make it work. And so we ended up helping him grow that business from like 100,000 revenue to like 4.5 million in the first couple of years.
Nice.
And I mean, he was the one who grew it. We just kind of helped make sure that the growth didn't stall out and everything was functional and scalable. Systems and processes is really our thing. But that was a big kind of tipping point for us, where it's like, oh, this could work. So then we started working with a bunch of other brands and working behind the scenes, knowing what blanks work, what inks work with different materials, what clients like and don't like, just everything that goes into an apparel brand. Inventory,
so you don't have all this old aged ass shit that's sitting there.
That's a whole big thing. We're actually developing custom calculator right now on an app, because that's what I was doing for him. That's cool. Yep. And it's a lot of work, but yeah, if you don't do it right and you don't order, like when Mike and I first ordered Forged, we ordered like $15,000 in inventory, and we ordered like, say, 200 shirts, but we're like, okay, I need 35 smalls, 35 mediums, 35 larges. So, but we didn't realize, so we ordered flat across the sizing curve. We didn't realize the sizing curve is a bell curve.
Yep.
So what happens if you order flat and your sizing curve is a bell curve, in a couple of weeks you have a canoe.
Yeah. You got no larges and a million smalls, right?
Right. You've got a year's worth of stock in smalls, and you ran out of larges in 2 weeks. So I was like, oh, there's a lot of math in here. And I'm math is my thing because I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
I look like a jock, but I'm a big nerd. So I put on my nerd hat and went to work, and we figured out an algorithm that can predict this stuff based on the sales velocity. We bounce it off there. Well, it's a bunch of nerd shit. But anyway, we can predict within 90-95% accuracy how much stock a brand is going to need, from not just per design, but per color, but per size.
Wow.
All that stuff.
Yep.
So that was pretty exciting. That app should be out next week. But that's kind of what we do with these clients. Is our whole business is based on helping brands grow and succeed. Because if we're providing the product, we want to help them sell as much as possible. So it's kind of a consulting baked into it, where we don't do any advertising or stuff, but we have people that do. So we're like, hey, talk with Alex, our marketing guy. Here's the contact. Go work with him. We don't get any commission. We don't get any kickback. Like, he's just really good at what he does, and we want you to sell as much as possible. Yeah, because you're going to order more.
Yes.
Do you need a website person? Talk with Ari. She's our person. Go with her. So we ended up building that out, and then that begat the challenge of fulfillment. So fulfillment it's
a fucking business in itself.
My God, whole other thing. Well, that's what we ended up realizing. It was actually Disney's idea, my wife Disney, to create fulfillment. I didn't want to do it. I'm like, oh, I hate fulfillment. It's so frustrating, dude. You got boxes and everything's got to be organized, and but she's like, no, this is what our clients need. Like, we should do it. So we started doing it for I think One More Wave was our first client, and great people, super good mission, and we tried to figure it out, and it's just systems and processes. And now it's my favorite business, because it's just, I mean, it's all math.
Yeah, it's a science again.
Yeah,
yep.
So I removed a lot of the people portion out of it. We have great people now, and we turned it into a separate company. Excuse me, about 4 years ago. Number one, for a financial reason, because they're two different companies. It creates this, gives us a lot more options, a lot more creative options for financial portion. But also too, because from a leadership perspective, there are two very different types of people that work in industry and archive. Archive 3PL is the name of the fulfillment company. Because the people on industry are very creative. They're a little bit design work. They have to understand artistry and creativity
yep.
to work with the clients to bring their vision to life, right? Whereas the warehouse side, they want to put their headphones on and go to work. They love systems and processes. They don't even want to talk to anybody. So for us, the cultures are very different.
Yep.
And how we lead the people is very different. How we incentivize them is very different. Down to how we hire and train them. So we're like, dude, it just makes sense to have separate companies for it. But now I've discovered that company is a whole different trajectory.
The logistics side?
Yeah,
yep.
Archive is a whole different trajectory. It took us about a year to really dig into what that could possibly become. But now I discovered that has much more potential than the production side of things. So I'm excited to dive into it. But almost lost the whole company like 4 years ago. We got up to $7 million in top line revenue. And I think it's a dangerous spot because I've known...
You're like the tweener.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, I've known a couple of friends of mine that were about 6-7 million, and like you're big enough where you can really make some dangerous moves.
Yeah.
But you're not big enough where you can hire like really excellent people that really know their shit to come on and pay them enough money where like they can really bring you forward. So we had like the exact issue that we got into was I hired a CFO. And at the time I was going through my leadership change where I've always been too far in the weeds, right?
Yep.
Not micromanaging, but like there's a certain amount of expectation. I want things done my way or their way. I want the best way done. But I wasn't open enough where they felt comfortable giving their own opinion, their own way. So I had to figure out a way to back off. But I backed off too much. So I was listening to Jocko, and he's got a really great mechanism, tool, process. I forget what he calls it, but it's basically like disassociated command or something. And I tried that, and I completely fucked it up.
Because you backed too far off.
Backed too far off,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And what I learned through this process is that a tiger can only change its stripes so much before it's not a tiger anymore. And I had let the CFO come in, and there's a great quote that I did not do, which is inspect what you expect. I did not do that. I hired him, and I was like, oh, I'm going to hire good people. And he had all the qualifications. I'm like, hey, go ahead and, you run this. I'm not gonna dig into your shit. And I would always ask him, hey, do we have money to hire these people for marketing? Do we have money to commit to this lease on this warehouse? Do we have money to commit to this office space? And we got up to 24 people on staff, and we had 3 warehouses and a really nice, like 3,000 square foot office space with like glass windows. I felt like a real grown-up entrepreneur, you know? And then big fallout with him. He wanted he'd only been working us for like 9 months. We grew really fast at that point. And he wanted like 8% of the company. And I'm like, hey man, like we're not a startup, and we're not a publicly held company. And you're already our highest paid employee. And like, you've only been, you're like, I'm sorry, man, like I can't give you 8% of the company for this. And
he didn't want to vest it over time, like he wasn't willing.
He wanted to invest it over time, but it was like this big thing, and he was very pushy about it. I'm like, and looking back, I could have handled it very differently. I should have been like, hey man, we'll work on it. Like let's see about this. There's ways we can do it. And I told him no. He just like walked out, like literally walked out that day and tried to poach our finance guy on the way out.
Wow.
I'm like, what the fuck, bro? So we're like, okay, fine, whatever. And so we because he was gone, we had to look under the hood, and we're like, holy shit. Not only have we been not profitable this whole time, we were losing $20,000 to $30,000 a month this entire time. We just didn't know it.
Yeah.
And so by the time we figured out what was going on, we're about $500,000 in the hole. And we owed a friend of mine, the print shop we partner with, my buddy Mike. I owed him personally like over $300,000. And I'm like, bro, I have $30,000 in my bank account. And this is the hardest point in 18 years of entrepreneurship I've ever had. And it's also highlights the value of a good partner, a good spouse. Sure. It's like, dude, I remember that the 4 days we knew what the problem was, but we didn't know how to fix it yet. I remember sitting up in bed, 4:30 in the morning, hadn't slept, staring at the ceiling. I'm like, dude, what? I'm a shitty entrepreneur. I'm a shitty husband. I'm a shitty leader. How did I get us in this position? I'm like, what the fuck did I do? And how am I going to get us out of this? And I just get a little emotional telling the story every time.
Dude, I feel it. I have been there. So.
Well, because as a business owner, as creative, and as a founder, your business is an extension of you.
Yes.
And it feels like your life is crumbling because it literally is. And she rolls over, she looks at me, and she's like, babe, She's like, why are you still up? I told her all this. Like, I'm sorry, I'm shitty at all this stuff. I don't know how I got us into this. And she's like, babe, I don't know how we're going to handle it either, but I know we're going to figure it out. And I was like, oh my God, I married the right fucking person.
Yeah.
And how we ended up solving that, because I hate when people come on podcasts and tell you the big problems, but they don't tell you the specific solutions.
Exactly. which we get that.
Yeah, because it's so often that, I mean, everybody goes through this at some point.
Totally.
What ended up making me feel better about it was I read a ton of books from, Phil Knight from Nike and Musk books and Bezos's books and Walmart, and every one of those people has a story about almost going out of business, usually multiple times. I was like, okay, it's not that I'm a shitty entrepreneur. This is just
inherent to the life, baby.
Right, just what happens. And how we ended up solving that was network. So I was in, I'm still in entrepreneur community called Arete Syndicate from, it's Andy Frisella's company. From First One.
Yep. He's got a big podcast. And
that's how I first found out of it. And he before I even knew him, he helped me out a lot. Just listen to this podcast from day one. It was great. And through that network of people in the Arete Syndicate, I was just open and honest with them. I wasn't sugarcoating. It's like, hey guys, like I'm fucked. I don't know how I'm going to handle this. We owe about $500,000, and we had, at that point, we had figured out how to fix it, which is basically we had to downsize all our shit, cut some people, which is the worst. Firing people is the worst fucking thing as an owner. And but we knew what to do. But the problem was, we figured it was going to take us about 9 to 12 months to right the ship. So we knew what to do, but we didn't have any money to do it. And nobody would loan us any money because
you're in the hole.
Yeah. So we're like, what are we going to do with this? So I was leaning on his friend group and just being super open and honest and vulnerable with him. Like, hey man, I'm fucked. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And it was I tried like the hard money loan, and our operating expenses were between $400,000 and $800,000 a month at that point. They're like $30,000 in the bank. It doesn't go far.
Yeah.
So I tried to get a buddy to, give me a hard money loan for like $100,000 at like 20% interest or something. And he's like, "No, man, sorry. I can make more money, put it somewhere else." I'm like, "You motherfucker!" But that was also the best thing that happened.
Yeah.
Because I realized, what's that going to get me, a week? You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you're drowning, you take anything.
Anything you can get.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but it was through a series of conversations. So, like, hey, I was talking to somebody, and he's like, "Why don't you talk to Jonathan Federa?" He was one of the finance guys in Arete Syndicate. I was like, "Oh shit, yeah." We closed down the bar a few times. We were pretty good buddies. I just didn't think to contact him because I was new to finance at the time. Because we'd bootstrapped all our shit. We didn't have any like loans or anything.
Yeah.
And so I contacted him, and oh my God, it totally changed the game. He's like, "Oh, bro, I'll get you an SBA loan for $500,000 at 2% or 2.9% interest rate for 30 years, and you don't have to pay anything back for 18 months. I'm like, "You saved my fucking life, bro. Yeah. You saved my fucking life."
And for him, it was just,
he's like, "Oh, it's nothing." Yeah. Like, whatever. And he had me the money in 10 days. I was like, holy shit. I just didn't know that existed. Yeah. But the second piece of that too is that we hadn't filed our taxes yet. So I was like, dude, how am I going to qualify for this loan? But here's where it's super important to find somebody that really knows the game. Because I was like, how much money do I need to say that I made? Because, as an entrepreneur, it's flexible. What you can show is like actual profit versus all the other stuff. So I was like, dude, how much money do I need to show that I made? Because if I have to say I made $200,000, I don't have $80,000 to put in taxes to qualify for this loan.
Right.
So he knew it was like I had to show $45,000 profit for the year prior, and I had to show $40,000 profit for the first quarter. And I was like, cool, I can do that. I can, pay the $10,000 or $12,000 in taxes for that year, and I can show the profit in the first quarter, and then we got the loan. But it was having somebody who knew the details of that and knew the finance game, and it's so easy for him. Sure. He's like, dude, I do this all the time. Like, no big deal. I got you. I was like, oh my God.
For you, it's a lifesaver though, right?
Totally. Yeah. It totally was.
And then you're sleeping, and it de-stresses your relationship, and you're a different boss at work because you got more bandwidth. And but think about, we're sitting here having this conversation. People are listening to this. You didn't go to Yale or Harvard. You're like,
I didn't graduate high school, dude.
Yeah, you're bopping through high school. You get other teams. You get into an industry you don't know about, and there's so many people. Like, everybody's got ideas, right? Yeah. The execution
That's what matters, man.
It's what matters. And then you got to get in the soup and nuts or on that component of it. And it's not like it's an event where, okay, it's fixed, because no business is ever fixed. And, if somebody looked at Tesla 2 years ago, they'd be like, dude, they're fucking killing it, right? And now it's like, people don't want EVs. I'm not a big EV fan either. But then you get the Elon political thing. You have, and now it's like, oh, they're going to write the guy a check for, $37 billion to stick around and be more focused just on Tesla. But it's constantly changing. The environment changes. Partnerships change. Demand changes. Customers change. Vendors change. Mm-hmm. Vendors tank. Like even here, we're not talking football helmets right now, but man, if I don't have a face mask to put on this thing, or I can't get it coated in time, everything else can be done. It can be the #1 rated helmet, but I can't ship it out. When I can't ship it out, I can't collect. The vendors that supplied all the other components on time, they want their money. Yeah. So you got to go through that exercise. And when you're a new company and you're dealing against a company that's huge, that has economies of scale, and they've got, residual income streams, you're trying to compete against that. You have to be super nimble and movable. When you look back now at 47 over the last, say, 20 years, if you were telling somebody new that was just going to go and say, I'm going to go and start this, I got an idea, I'm going to attack. You mentioned, hey, I'm listening to Elon, I'm listening to Jocko, et cetera, et cetera. What message would you give to people, or messages on how do they get from point A to, where you're at today, and learn these lessons as efficiently and minimize the pain? There's always going to be pain, but what would you tell them?
It's a mix of things. You have to listen to people, but you have to ignore people. So you have to choose who to listen to, right? So you have to take advice from people who have been there and done that in your specific arena, right?
Yeah.
Or in business in general, because there's a lot of carryover to a lot of different business types. But you got to, if your brother doesn't know shit about business, you got to just, maybe hear him out and be like, hey man, cool.
Yep.
Whatever.
Thanks.
You gotta ignore that stuff. So I would say only you have to guard your vision, right? You have to share your vision, but you have to guard your vision. It's a very tight thing to walk. And I think as you move through that journey of entrepreneurship, it's like going to the gym. Like the more you go to the gym, the weights don't get lighter, you just get stronger. Yeah. And the same thing with entrepreneurship. Like there's certain things that when you're new to entrepreneurship, you might have $100 problem. You're like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then it's $1,000 problem. You're like, oh my God. And then it's 10,000. It's whatever else. So when I was going through that financial problem 4 years ago, I was texting Andy from Airtain First Farm. I'm like, bro, how do I fucking handle this? He's like, bro, you got it. Like, I don't know specifically, but I know you'll figure it out. I was like, oh. Yeah, but he's right. It was the network that he created, and just being open and honest, and we did figure it out. I think there's success in businesses, and you've been through this obviously too. It's really only comes down to two things. You just got to try not to make the same mistake twice, and you just got to keep going.
Yes.
And if you do that over a long enough timeline, the only logical outcome is growth and success. But you're gonna have problems, man. And their problems are going to increase. And what I discovered from that call with Andy, he's like, dude, I'm dealing with the same shit. Like the decimal point's just in a different place. He's like, I'm dealing with $100 million problems. I was like, oh, that makes me feel a lot better about my six-figure problems. Yeah. Like way easier.
Yeah.
But he's been doing it for 25 years and a much bigger scale than I have. So it made me feel better about the whole thing. It's like, dude, you got this, and as long as you have a strong network and you're open to feedback, because if you, how do I put this? If you pretend it doesn't exist, if you bury it or you obfuscate it or you skirt around it, especially with your other friend group, in your friend group, every entrepreneur knows that it's hard as shit. Like was a Navy SEAL for 10 years, and being an entrepreneur is way harder than being a Navy SEAL, like way freaking harder. It's because there's no roadmap, there's no safety net. You're all on your own. Oftentimes you never know if the decision you're making is right until weeks, months later.
Yep.
And it's hard, and there's applause. There's a lot of pros to it, but there's a lot of pitfalls too. It's a very lonely journey, or it can be lonely. if you don't have the right people in your corner, if you don't have the right person. I think a big component, and maybe it's just my own perspective, but I think your spouse plays a big role in it. Because I was with a girl on and off for 9 years prior to Disney, and Disney I've been together about a little over 11 years now. And but this girl was very like by the book, worked in business, but was like an employee in a big company, very corporate,
right?
Very smart, but really valued like traditional knowledge, not an out of the box thinker, not a big risk taker. And she poo-pooed all my ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, why don't you get a real job? You should get an education. You should do all this stuff. I'm like, she just didn't get it. Very smart girl, very like awesome person. Wasn't a good fit though. And thank God it didn't work out, because I wouldn't have been able to build for what I wanted to do, her personality, and she would have been an anchor.
Yeah.
Whereas Disney's a propeller for me.
Yeah.
Like,
she'd have been a current against you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Nothing like when you go home and somebody's on you about, well, I didn't think that was going to work, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I told you that was a stupid idea.
Exactly. I can say a lot of things about my boy's mom, former wife, but she never once would be like, you're a loser, you're not going to get it done. Mm-hmm. And even in this project, there were times where I was like, close to tears, sitting there like, man, can anything else go wrong in this case? Why has this happened to me? And I've said it on this podcast before. It's like she'd look over at me and say, oh, it's because you're the only one that can do it, right? And it was just that little message from the right person at the right time. But I'll say it to anybody that's an entrepreneur. If you're hanging around with people that aren't entrepreneurs, you're making the job 500 times harder for yourself. I can sit with you if I haven't talked to you in 4 or 5 months, and we could sit in a room and I could be like, here are my problems. You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You're going to be able to formulate some solutions. You're also going to be able to provide some, hey, dude, I was there. You're going to navigate through this. It's going to be tough swimming up against stream, but you're going to get there. Yeah. And that messaging, you got to hang around with people, even if they're getting their ass kicked for a time, that understand your show. And like you said, I think, and it's so smart, it's not just who you listen to, but it's who you choose to, hey, I heard that, I appreciate it, but you got to put that off on the side, because you'll never get there listening to.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is, dude, it's like juggling chainsaws, and sometimes they're on fire. It's hard. But also too, like, my wife her favorite hobby is telling me I'm wrong. She loves to I told you this would work. I knew that was a stupid idea, but she's like, here's how we're going to fix it.
Yeah. Cause she has a solution. She's not just throwing the rock.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. She's working with me. This is one of the reasons that our marriage works, is that we're both moving forward. We want the same thing, not the same things. Like, she's into horses, and I love all animals, but horses are one of my least favorite animals, and I like cars, and she could not care less about cars. But we both those things are relatively expensive.
Yep.
So we're like, okay, we both want money and freedom and time to pursue our interests and do these things. And so we're aligned on those goals. So I think alignment is a huge piece, but also alignment, that there's positive and negative to alignment, but you can use those. Oftentimes the negative is a powerful force. So for example, like, my wife and I are only really aligned on or overlap of like a Venn diagram. The things that we really like together is only like 10 to 15%. But what really brings us together is that we hate the same shit.
That's true, right? Circle the wagons,
but
right?
Dude, if we go to like a restaurant and it's like 3 degrees too hot, we sit down. We don't have to say anything. We're like, we're leaving, right? It's like, oh yeah, we're not staying here. Or something is inconvenient, or like we're driving. There's been so many times, like I'm driving, and I'm like, somebody's being an idiot ahead of us, and neither of us says anything. I go around the corner about to like, fuck you. She's already got the corner. Like, get the fuck out of the road. I'm like, that's my girl, Yeah, it's just that alignment. A lot of times you can use the negative to push you further towards the things that you want.
Yep.
Not all negativity is bad. You know what I mean? If you learn how to use it in the right way, it can be extremely powerful.
So true. Nobody wants to say that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you dislike the same thing,
it's powerful, man.
It's way more powerful than if you like different things. Because you're going to avoid that. There's a pain that and people avoid pain, right? That's just the way it is. It's why people don't go to the gym. It's why people, hey, I'm not going to go get that checked and that skin thing or whatever it is. People want to avoid it at all costs. Transitions, one thing that we've talked about a lot. Football players transitioning out,
Scary
team
time.
guys. It's a scary time for people. You've learned a shit ton of stuff in a period of time, but how did you get through that transition? Like I always tell people, I'm like, man, you got to have a purpose. Lonnie Paxton was in here, 3 Super Bowl rings. He's like, dude, I started to build a network 5 years before I retired from football.
Smart.
Because otherwise I'm just hanging around with the guys on the team, and then you get out and everything's gone. The attention is gone, the money's gone. Hey, the training room's gone, this is gone. And I mean, when you get out of the teams, the same thing. Like, so what did you do to smooth that out?
Well, I think there's a couple of things, but I think the most common situation that most people go through is that they don't know when to quit the day job. And the cool thing is to say, oh, burn the boats, go all in.
Yeah.
But it's a terrible strategy. It sounds cool, but the reality is most businesses will take about 3 to 5 years to get to the point where you can pull enough money out of it to actually survive off it. But the problem is what people don't realize too is that most businesses, they don't spin off money, they take money. So to grow a business, you have to spend a lot of money to get it to grow. And this is one thing that was a big surprise to me. So when you have a business idea, what you want to do, or the temptation is to just, because you're so excited about it, it's your thing, it's your idea, and you just want to spend all your time doing it. I would say resist that temptation, keep your day job, perform at your day job, and use every spare moment to work on your side hustle and your side job until it gets to the point where, and that's the second piece of this equation, is where do you jump, right? At what point do you jump? I know for me, and it's a personal decision. It depends on, what your life overhead is and your responsibilities and kids and everything stuff. But I know for me, I was a buzz instructor. Mike and I started Forge 2007. I left active duty in 2008. And I took a job as a civilian instructor in the SQT training pipeline. And I held that job until I left in the very last day of 2016. And I built and sold 3 companies in that time.
Wow.
I still had a day job.
So you had that cash flow coming in from that, right?
And it was easier, it was faster to build the companies because I didn't have to pay rent off them. So I could use all the profit that came in to get more product, to get more economy of scale, to buy at higher volume, to get better marketing ROAS, all this stuff. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was, trying to pay grocery bills with that thing. But the other problem is that I should have jumped about 6 months earlier, because the time that I was spending on industry was making me perform less at my job, where I was distracted. I was always on my phone. I was doing stuff, and it started to affect my performance. And I wasn't happy with that. I was just too much of a pussy to jump, because that would have been the first time in 2008, 7. So it had been 11 years I've been an entrepreneur, but I'd never lived out the company before. I'd always had a day job.
Yep.
So it was a really scary time for me. And also too, I was, that job was really cushy, and I was making like, little over 100 grand a year. So it was like, I wasn't killing it, but I had a Lamborghini because I just sold another company. So I was having fun and doing okay. And that's the hardest part to leave, when you're comfortable.
Right. It's true.
If you're uncomfortable, it's super easy to get out of there. When you're comfortable, man, it's hard to get off that fluffy pillow.
Yep.
But what I did is that I ended up leaving, and I was really afraid that my business wouldn't be able to cover that 100 grand that I was missing from that day job.
Yep.
But once I put that time and bandwidth that I was putting into my day job into my business, it rocket ship. It really exploded. So I would say it's a delicate balance, and it's different for everybody in every situation. And I didn't have any kids, or I wasn't married, and we didn't have my life overhead was very small. So I was pretty agile with everything. So it was an easy decision to make. But that's what it was for me. There's a couple of the pieces I wanted to put in there, but I forgot as I got distracted with that story. But yeah, keep your day job as long as possible is the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I transitioned from working from a company to start my first company back in the 90s, I went out, I looked for, monster.com or whatever the listings of jobs were. And I would go and find jobs that I could do, but instead of taking the job, I'd offer myself as a consultant and say, hey, while you look for this person, you need someone to do this job anyway. I'll do it for 60 cents on the dollar. And I go and get 3 of those, because if I worked my ass off, I could do 3 jobs.
Yeah, smart.
And I'd be cranking in it, but then I could work on my other thing at the same time, and I had total flexibility of time. And then invariably, one of those companies would be like, dude, we need to keep you. And I'm like, dude, I don't want the job now, but you can you can pay me twice as much, and I'll do it. And I'll do it as a consultant. It's still not going to cost you as much as what it's going to cost to have somebody in the office and assimilate a new employee and go through the whole thing. So then I could drop one. I'd have that. I'd sign a contract and say, hey, it's 90-day, termination. Then I could really crank on my other thing. And that's kind of how I broke it loose. But I mean, when you transitioned out, I mean, my parents were married 61 years. Like, my mom and dad were not perfect people, but they were awesome. And, I had a college degree, and my situation was easy compared to what you went through. And that's one of the things about this gig, the football thing for young people, is nobody cares if somebody's black, white, Hispanic, what religion you are. There's the little dudes that are fast. There's big dudes. Everybody's got to work in harmony at that period. And you see all these kids showing up at these camps at this time of year. And even though you weren't a sports guy, you get it, because the same thing happened at the teams. Everybody from different backgrounds gets tossed into this.
Just got to be competent. Just got to be good at your job. That'll make everybody love you if you're competent. I remember what I was going to say. It's 2 things. There's a danger component, and there's a willingness to be a new guy component. The danger component is that during a transition time in the military, there's what's called phase lines, right? So the most dangerous time is between the phase lines. So, for example, if you're taking a submarine by itself is pretty safe. They're hard to detect. They're very safe underwater relatively. And a boat, like a small boat on the Zodiac out in the ocean, is pretty hard to detect. You're fairly safe in there. But when the submarine has to come to the surface, and you got like a half hour or something to unload these boats and engines out of the hold and inflate them and get them ready and go, and the submarine go underwater, that's a very dangerous time. It's dangerous for the sub because they can't submerge. It's dangerous for the boats because you're a sitting duck, quite literally. So that transition time is very dangerous, and there's a lot of parallels with that time in your life. You're transitioning from one thing to another.
Good point.
And then the other piece of that is, and this is maybe the most important piece, is you have to be willing to be a new guy again. And we see this all the time in team guys, or any kind of like high-level spec ops guys, or professional athletes have this problem all the time. Doctors, attorneys have this problem. Where you've achieved a certain level of competency, and you're good at your job at a high level. A lot of those guys think that has carryover to other things, and it really doesn't. It really does not, like, at all. So a lot of guys, a lot of team guys have this problem where they get out and they think, oh, I have an idea. I'm just going to team guy it out. I'm just going to muddle through it. It's going to be awesome because I'm so good. And what they don't realize is that you're stepping into a completely new role, completely new capabilities, responsibilities, expectations, problem sets that you have no experience in. You have the tools to excel in it because you've excelled in this other thing, but there's so much that you don't know. And if you go into it with this mindset of like, oh, I'm just not going to listen to me, I'm just going to do my own thing, I'm just going to power through it, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or even if you don't fail, when you come across these roadblocks, you have a really hard time because you're not willing to listen to other people that know better than you. It's like being a new guy to a team. Yeah, you graduated Buzz and you graduated SQT, but you don't know shit about being a team guy. There's so much stuff. You just don't know what you don't know yet.
Yeah.
And it isn't until later, after you've been in the team a couple of years, where the new guys are coming on, they're all cocky and shit. You're like, bro, just wait. Just wait. You know, I think entrepreneurship is a lot like that, where there's this flow of like, it's almost like there's two levels to it. There's that first level where you achieve some success and you're like, bro, I got this. This is good. I'm going to sail through it. Then you have your problems. You're like, oh fuck, how do I handle this? And then you learn it. Then you get better. Then you have a new problem. You're like, oh my God. So there's just constant leveling up. I think a lot of that goes to being an older man too, where one of the maybe only good things about being an older man is that it makes it easier to see the pattern recognition.
Yep.
Where you see these things and you're like, oh, this is another one of these, another one of these. So you're able to approach these situations with a more calm demeanor because you're like, okay, this is the problem. I don't know what the solution is, but I know how to find it now.
Yep.
And I feel confident that we can find it and we can work it out. So it gives you this I don't want to say certainty, but it gives you faith.
It's a confidence that you're going to be able to get through it. It's never as good as you think it's going to be or as bad as you think.
Yeah.
Once you've seen the patterns. The thing I'm putting in my notebook, there's something I take away from everyone that's like the one big thing. And kind of the shitty thing is you said it way at the beginning. So the mental durability thing. Like,
yeah, it's huge.
And there's a bunch of components that go into that. But it's whether it's football, whether it's going to the teams, entrepreneurship, you could take anything. Sorry about the ringing phone.
It's not my phone.
No, I know. You know, and it's like one of my guys calling me. Thank God it wasn't your phone. Last thing I have for you, and I appreciate you being in here today and sharing all of this. You know, you're one thing I've always noted and frankly I think is fantastic is you're very open kimono. Like you don't have that pride to not just be like, dude, this is what happened to me. Like I got my ass kicked here, or this was great, or this happened to me. And I think that serves you well as a person, but I think it serves so many other people well that look and see and they're like, oh, here's this guy's got his own company. He was a team guy. He's in good shape. He's funny. Podcast, got good buddies. And people think like that destination just happened and it didn't. They don't realize. And then the first time they hit a rough spot, they're like, dude, I'm never going to be able to get there. How did he get there? And they don't realize that there are all those traps along the way. When you look at everything that you've accomplished, and I mean, there's a lot of things, and hats off on that. But what do you want to be remembered for? Like, I mean, you're a dad, right? And you're entrepreneur, team guy, friend, husband, like out of all of it, what do you want to be remembered for?
I don't think I've got there yet. But I know what it's not. Like I say this all the time. Like I want Navy SEAL to be a footnote on my tombstone, not the fucking headline. You know, and I think maybe this will be useful for the viewers is that it's not that durability aspect. The one thing that you can count on with buds is that that you never know what somebody has inside, but there is a pattern to it, and the pattern is just the willingness to get up and keep going. Because in buds, anybody off the street can make it through a day of buds. Like you're not going to have a good time. You know what I mean? Like it's going to suck for sure. But you could grab any random person, anybody in here, we can grab from your office, and they can make it through a day of buds. You know, they'll survive basically. Yep. But it's the choice, the willingness to get up the next day and do it again, and get up the next day and do it again and again and again. That's the difference between people who make it through buds and people who don't. And I think that's also a massive parallel with entrepreneurship is people who are willing to get kicked in the nuts and come back the next day and be like, okay, cool. I learned a lesson. I'm not going to make that mistake again. And I'm going to keep going and keep going and keep going. You're just coming back and doing it. But I think that has to do with, you have to want it bad enough. And I think that's the other piece of that entrepreneurship piece and that vision piece or your idea. Like you have to really love what you're doing. Like if you want to be a team guy, you can't be casual about it. It's hard as fuck. Like you really have to commit to it and really want it, and then you can do it. And entrepreneurship, I think, is the same way. You have to love your idea. You're not going to love everything about what you do, but if you love the vision and you pull it into yourself and you make it part of you and your character and your experience and you make it your life, it's really hard to back away from that. And that's kind of what you need is that's the thing, like the burn the boats is like stay tenacious with your fucking vision. Yeah. Disney has a great quote about this where it's stay, I'm going to butcher it. She's going to hate me for this, but it's basically, be stubborn about your goals and flexible about your methods.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
That makes a lot of sense.
It totally does. It totally does. I appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for having me, man.
I want to do one where we're just having, you have so many fucking funny stories, but the serious side of this is, you know, this whole thing is about engaging, whether it's coaches, players, parents, entrepreneurs, people that are, you know, yeah, you're a football fan. We're not here talking about football helmets, right? But there's something that's unique here, and it's the kind of that man in the arena component of it, which is everything that you do and that you've done from when you got out to now is in the public eye. And you're going to fail, you're going to succeed, and people are like, oh, dude, you did this, and this. And they don't know the times that you're getting your ass kicked. But then when they do see it, people are like, oh, dude, that's why I didn't do that, because you're getting your ass kicked.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so awesome that you go out and you have these conversations. You're willing to share so much. Got to have you back on here. We are doing the funny stories one. But, I will say that the Liberty Risk podcast is awesome.
Thanks,
I want to be on your frickin' podcast next, but keep up the good work. Keep sharing the message. It's so important to so many people. And there are people that are getting their ass kicked on a certain day, and you're the difference from getting them to wake up the next day and go and do it again. So keep it up.
Dude, thanks, brother. Appreciate you having me.
You bet. Thank you. Appreciate it.